An elderly man threw a police dog, a German shepherd, from the 15th floor of a building. What happened next will shock you. He was a retired K-9 hero, loyal, disciplined, and brave. But after years of service, his fate took a dark and painful turn when a desperate old man made a cruel and irreversible decision. No one expected what the German shepherd would do or who would enter his life just when he needed a miracle most. This isn't just a story of survival. It's about redemption, loyalty, and a second chance that no one saw coming. Before we begin, don't forget to like and share this story so we can bring more inspiring accounts to you. The screams were the first thing anyone heard. A woman walking her baby in the courtyard below dropped her coffee and looked up just in time to see a dark silhouette plummeting through the air. Then came the impact. Neighbors gasped, some frozen in shock, while others rushed toward the sound. There, on the cold pavement, at the base of a tall building in downtown São Paulo, lay the German shepherd. His body was twisted at an unnatural angle, blood pooling around him, but his chest still moved. He was alive, though just barely. A teenager skateboarding nearby tore off his sweatshirt and ran to the dog's side, yelling, "Call 111, please! He's still breathing!" His voice trembled with panic. The building's security guard sprinted to the scene, already speaking into his radio, as residents peered from their windows, raising their cell phones. The whispers began immediately. He fell from the 15th floor. Someone said the old man up there threw him. The old man in apartment 157. Within minutes, the emergency crew arrived. Paramedics carefully placed the German shepherd onto a gurney designed for large dogs. His breathing was shallow, his eyes nearly closed. A front leg was clearly broken, and the fall had fractured several ribs. But the look in his eyes, just before they fluttered shut, was not one of pain. It was one of betrayal. At the city's Animal Trauma Center, Dr. Clara Almeida hadn't taken a lunch break in 12 hours. But when she saw the gurney roll in, she dropped everything. "What happened to him?" she asked, already pulling on her gloves. "He fell from a 15-story building. We think he was pushed," a paramedic answered. Dr. Clara leaned in to examine the dog more closely. His fur was laced with old scars, and his ears were cropped. She knew immediately this was no ordinary pet. "He's a service dog," she whispered. The ID tags were missing, but the signs were unmistakable. Military training, defined musculature, and battle-worn eyes. This dog had served someone, been loved by someone, and yet, someone had discarded him like trash. "We're not losing him," Dr. Clara declared. "Not today." Across town, Detective Rafael Souza slammed a case file onto his desk. "You're telling me a retired military dog was thrown off a balcony by his owner," he said, as Officer Marcos, standing beside him, nodded grimly. "Neighbors say the old man has been acting strangely. His name is Jorge Martins, ex-soldier, lives alone. He won't even open the door." Rafael stood up. "Let's pay a visit to apartment 157. Inside, Jorge Martins sat alone in his kitchen, a broken leash lying on the floor. His hands trembled. He hadn't meant to hurt the dog, but his mind was failing him. Memories blurred together. Sometimes he thought he was still on active duty. Other times, he saw enemies in the shadows. The medication wasn't working. The world was becoming too loud, too fast, too much. "I thought he was attacking me," he mumbled through tears. Then came a sharp knock at the door. "Mr. Martins, this is the police. Open the door." Jorge didn't move, but deep inside something broke. He remembered the dog's name, Sombra, And in that instant, he realized he had pushed away the only living soul who had never given up on him. Back at the trauma center, Dr. Clara sat beside Sombra's cage. The dog was sedated, hooked up to an IV, his body wrapped in bandages, but his heart kept beating strong. She placed her hand gently on his paw. "Whoever you are," she whispered, "you didn't deserve this." Then she noticed something, a faint tattoo beneath his fur, numbers forming a military ID. Her eyes widened. This dog had a past, and now someone needed to uncover the truth. Because what happened on that balcony wasn't just an accident, it was the beginning of something much deeper. Dr. Clara had treated hundreds of dogs in her 10 years as an emergency veterinarian, but none had moved her quite like this one. Sombra, though no one yet knew his name, had survived a fall that should have been fatal. He had 2 fractured ribs, a shattered front leg, internal bleeding, and severe spinal bruising. But he was breathing. He was fighting. She stayed late that night, long after the other staff had gone home. The clinic's hallway lights were low, casting a soft glow into the recovery room. Sombra was curled up on his gurney, his body still frail, but his eyes were open, watching everything. He didn't startle when she approached. He just held her gaze. "You're not just any dog," she whispered, kneeling beside the gurney. "You're a soldier." The numbers tattooed discreetly behind his right ear foam confirmed it. Military ID tags were common for service dogs, but there was something more in his eyes. A search for answers. An attempt to understand why he had been betrayed. "I don't know what happened up there," she continued. "But I promise you, you're safe now." Sombra blinked slowly, his breathing still shallow. Dr. Clara reached into her jacket pocket and placed a small, plush toy inside the gurney. A simple, comforting gesture. He touched the toy with his nose and nudged it against his face. It was in that moment she knew that despite all the pain, trauma, and confusion, he was still in there. The next day, Detective Raphael appeared in Dr. Clara's office, holding a cup of burnt hospital coffee and a file folder. "No collar, no microchip," he said. "But that number behind his ear led us to a Ministry of Defense record. His name is Sombra, a retired service dog. Served 3 tours overseas." Dr. Clara looked up from her desk. "Then why was he with Jorge Martins?" "Martins was his last handler," Raphael explained. "After the dog was decommissioned, Jorge kept him as a companion. The military sometimes allows that with long-term partners. Sombra was with him for 2 years post-retirement. And then Jorge threw him out the window." Her voice tightened with disbelief. Raphael nodded. "Martins has been sent for psychiatric evaluation. He's not well. Signs of early-onset dementia and severe PTSD. He claimed Sombra attacked him, but I think he just didn't know where he was." Dr. Clara folded her arms. "So what happens now?" "That's the problem," Raphael replied. "Without a legal guardian and with a military record, Sombra is technically government property. They're deciding whether to euthanize him." The words sent a chill down her spine. "Euthanize him," she repeated, incredulous. "He survives a 15-story fall, serves 3 tours of duty, and now they want to kill him." Raphael nodded grimly. "It's protocol. Severe injuries, behavioral risk. It's about bureaucracy, not people." Dr. Clara stood. "No, I won't allow it. I'll file for temporary guardianship. As a licensed emergency vet, I can argue for medical necessity. Once he's stable, I'll find someone who understands what this dog has been through." Raphael watched her for a moment. Then a small smile touched his lips. "You're not like other vets." "I don't treat statistics," she replied. I treat lives. That night, Clara once again stayed by Sombra's side. Outside, the city was quiet. Inside, the machines beeped steadily. Sombra had eaten a little for the first time. His eyes now followed her with trust, not fear. She gently stroked the fur near his ears, careful to avoid the stitches. "They think you're broken," she murmured. "But I think you're stronger than all of them." He didn't move, but his tail gave a single, faint thump. Clara smiled. "They don't know who you are. But I do." Slowly his eyes closed and his breathing evened out. Leaning in, she called him by his name for the first time. "Rest, Sombra. We're not done yet." Beyond the clinic walls, forces were already in motion. Paperwork was being signed, and people who had never met Sombra were preparing a decision that could end his life. Dr. Clara didn't know it yet, but she was about to face a battle of her own, a fight she never expected. For the first time in days, the sun broke through the clouds over São Paulo. Inside the trauma center, the atmosphere was far from bright, but in the recovery room, something incredible was happening. Sombra was standing. Not for long, not steadily, and certainly not without pain, but on trembling legs and with a will of fire he was on his feet. He stepped off the gurney, took one step forward, then another. Dr. Clara stood silently just outside the enclosure, holding her breath, her heart pounding. He wobbled, but then found his balance. "Good boy," she whispered, the emotion thick in her voice. "This is how we fight, Sombra." He looked at her, and for the first time, his eyes weren't just following her out of instinct. They were seeing her, recognizing her. Something in their depths told Dr. Clara that this was a soul who had never given up, and she couldn't fail him now. Because time was running out. That afternoon, Dr. Clara met with a woman with cold eyes and a gray suit at the Ministry of Defense liaison office. "His body is healing. He's alert, responsive, and shows no signs of aggression," Clara stated firmly. The woman raised an eyebrow. "And yet, the last report mentions an alleged attack on a civilian, his own handler, who was diagnosed with early-onset dementia and was having an episode." Clara countered. Sombra was confused. He didn't attack. He waited. He let people help him. He never once lashed out. "I'm not here to discuss emotional interpretations, doctor," the woman said calmly. "The file indicates behavioral instability post-trauma, as per the service dog decommissioning protocol. The next step is euthanasia." Dr. Clara shot to her feet. "You want to kill a decorated war dog because he had the audacity to survive being thrown out a window?" The woman remained impassive. "We are in the evaluation phase, but we are not guided by sentiment. These dogs serve a function. When that function ends, they are retired or discharged. He was already retired. Now he is injured and a potential risk. The risk outweighs the benefit." Dr. Clara's voice trembled with rage. "He gave his life to protect others. 3 tours. I've seen dogs do less and receive medals. Sombra is being condemned because someone failed him." The official gathered her papers. "You have until Friday. If no one legally adopts him by then, we will proceed." Dr. Clara stood in silence as the woman left, but inside her resolve hardened into steel. She would not let this dog be lost. Not like this. Back at the clinic, Sombra had managed to walk halfway across the recovery room by the end of the day. A technician named Sarah held a soft towel under his belly, supporting him as he walked. Every movement was difficult, but determined. Detective Raphael arrived just as Sombra was carefully lowering himself back onto his gurney. "Is that really the same dog?" he asked in disbelief. "Same heart," Dr. Clara answered quietly. Same fire. Raphael drew closer. You've made a lot of progress, haven't you, buddy? Clara's expression was unreadable. But not fast enough. They've only given me 4 more days. Raphael shook his head. I don't get it. We invest millions training these dogs. We trust them with our lives. And then we throw them away like trash when they don't fit in a box. They don't see a dog, Dr. Clara murmured. They see a tool. Raphael crouched beside the gurney. Hey, Sombra, he asked softly. You remember me? You and I were on the same bases in Afghanistan, back in 17. Your name was in the logs. You saved lives, boy. You earned your place. Sombra blinked and pushed his nose toward Raphael's hand. Raphael swallowed hard. You're worth fighting for. Dr. Clara's mind was already racing. Maybe Detective Raphael was the solution. An ex-soldier with a steady income and security experience. He understood these dogs. He knew what it was like to be wounded and keep going. So, you'd consider adopting him? Raphael looked from her to Sombra, and then nodded. I would. On one condition. Which is? You have to stay in his life. You're the reason he made it this far. I think he needs both of us now. For the first time in days, Dr. Clara felt hope swell in her chest. Friday. The word echoed in her mind, a relentless countdown. Just 2 days. That's all they had. Sombra's progress was remarkable. He could now walk 10 feet, unassisted. He responded to his name, obeyed simple commands, and had even begun to wag his tail just slightly whenever Dr. Clara or Detective Raphael entered the room. But to the Ministry of Defense, none of that mattered. A single form, a single stamp, and everything they had fought for could be erased. Dr. Clara spent her mornings at the clinic and her nights writing appeal letters, calling military contacts, and emailing senators. Some promised to look into it. Others ignored her completely. Raphael had filed the official adoption paperwork, but the bureaucracy moved like sludge. I don't understand why they're pushing this, he muttered, pacing the clinic hallway. My record is impeccable. I was a Marine. I've handled K-9 units in combat. What more do they want? They don't want anything, Dr. Clara said. They just don't want the responsibility. Sombra, lying on his mat, watched them with silent eyes. His body was healing, but a sadness still lingered in his gaze. He sensed something, the way dogs always do. Dr. Clara knelt beside him, stroking his fur. I don't know how to tell you this, buddy, she whispered, but we're running out of time. Sombra closed his eyes, resting his head gently against hers. Later that afternoon, an envelope arrived at the clinic. Raphael opened it as Dr. Clara held her breath. His face went rigid. They're denying the adoption, he said, his voice low. They've flagged Sombra as potentially unstable and unfit for reintegration. The air left the room. No appeal, no discussion. They were planning to euthanize him by noon on Friday. Just 41 hours from now. She leaned against the wall, a wave of shock washing over her. They were actually going to kill him. Raphael looked at Sombra, lying peacefully on his bed. He saved lives, he said. And now they want to erase him, as if he never mattered. The next morning, Dr. Clara woke with a desperate idea. It was risky, but it might be their only chance. She called Raphael. I have one last play. We have until noon. They met at a local news station. Raphael was in his dress uniform, Dr. Clara in her lab coat, and Sombra, though still limping, stood proudly beside them. A reporter raised an eyebrow. Are you saying the government wants to euthanize a retired war hero? That's exactly what I'm saying, Dr. Clara replied. This dog saved Brazilian soldiers overseas. He survived a 15-story fall, and now the very system that trained him is about to throw him away. Raphael stepped forward. He isn't just a dog. He's a veteran, and veterans deserve to be heard, not silenced. Within hours, the segment aired across Rio de Janeiro, then the state, then the entire country. The hashtag Justice for Sombra began to explode on social media. Thousands of comments poured in. Adopt him! This is outrageous. My husband served with K-9 units. This is heartbreaking. Give him the honor he deserves. By the end of the day, the Ministry of Defense's inbox was flooded. News anchors were requesting interviews. Local politicians were issuing statements. Dr. Clara watched it all unfold in disbelief, her hands trembling as she scrolled through the overwhelming support online. Sombra rested at her feet, his head on her boot. He didn't understand the storm raging outside, but he could feel that something had changed. People were fighting for him. For the first time, he wasn't alone. The next day, at 11:42 a.m., just 18 minutes before the order was to be carried out, Dr. Clara received a final email. Order suspended, pending review. She sank into her chair, releasing a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding for days. Raphael, looking over her shoulder, broke into a smile. Did we buy some time? Dr. Clara looked at Sombra, who lifted his head slightly. It's more than time, she murmured. It's hope. But she knew the fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. Dr. Clara had believed the worst was behind them. The public outcry had stalled the execution order. Sombra was improving daily, and Raphael was already working to certify him as a therapy dog for veterans. A plan that would both protect him and give his life new purpose. Then, as the sky began to lighten, the trouble returned. It started with a late-night phone call. Dr. Clara had just locked up the clinic when her personal phone rang. The number was blocked. Dr. Clara, this is Colonel Ricardo Mendez, Military Investigations Department. Her heart leaped into her throat. Is this about Sombra? I need to speak with you immediately. It's regarding his service record. 30 minutes later, she and Raphael found themselves in a cold, gray office downtown, sitting across from the stern-faced colonel, who was flanked by file folders. He slid one across the desk. We re-examined Sombra's case file. We found something disturbing. Raphael leaned forward. What kind of something? The colonel opened the folder. Inside were a series of incident reports, dates, coordinates, names, and a photograph of a dusty military complex in Kandahar, dated 2019. In the center was Sombra, his teeth bared by his handler, blood on the ground, chaos in the background. This, Colonel Mendez said, was from a fatal mission. There was a civilian casualty. The reports were sealed. Until now. Dr. Clara's hands began to tremble. What are you saying? There are allegations that Sombra misidentified a target, that he attacked a civilian interpreter during an ambush. The army covered it up to protect morale. But now that he's in the spotlight, some are demanding justice. Raphael shot to his feet. This isn't justice, it's scapegoating. We are reopening the investigation. Until it is concluded, all rehabilitation, adoption, and public use of Sombra is suspended, Colonel Mendez stated flatly. Dr. Clara was stunned. You can't be serious. That mission was in the heat of combat. There's no way he acted without cause. That is not your determination to make, Doctor. Raphael clenched his fists. And who decided to bury the case in the first place? The colonel didn't answer, but they both knew this wasn't about the truth. It was about politics. Back at the clinic, Dr. Clara sat on the floor beside Sombra's kennel, her head in her hands. He lay quietly, but his ears twitched, sensing her distress. Raphael paced back and forth. They're going to use this to put him down, he said. They were waiting for a reason to justify it, and now they've found one. He was in combat, she whispered. He was protecting his team. I know that. You know that. But they want this to go away quietly. Dr. Clara looked at Sombra, and his eyes met hers. I won't let them kill him a second time, she said, her voice firm. He's paid his price. Raphael knelt beside her. Then we need the truth. Dr. Clara nodded slowly. There was another survivor from that mission, a medic named Elias Rocha. I saw his name in the report. He's in Texas now. Raphael's eyes narrowed. Then that's where we're going. The next day, Dr. Clara and Raphael boarded a plane with Sombra. The trip was approved on medical grounds, pushed through just moments before the suspension order became official. In a small rural town outside Houston, they found Elias Rocha on a simple farm with goats, chickens, and a prosthetic leg. The man looked surprised but not displeased by their arrival. Sombra, he said softly, crouching down. The dog sniffed him, then licked his hand. You remember me, boy? Elias whispered. Dr. Clara approached. We need to know the truth. Kandahar, 2019. Did Sombra attack a civilian? Elias's eyes clouded with memory. No, he said. That man wasn't a civilian. He turned on us. He was feeding intel to the enemy. I saw the grenade on his belt. Sombra got to him first. He saved us. Dr. Clara's breath caught in her throat. Then why didn't you speak up? I was ordered to keep quiet, Elias answered. They said it would complicate things. Said Sombra was just a dog. Raphael stepped forward. He's not just a dog. He's a soldier. Elias nodded. That he is. He closed his eyes for a moment, then added, I'll testify. I'll write a sworn affidavit, whatever you need. Dr. Clara smiled through her tears. That might just be enough to save him. She looked at Sombra, calm, proud, and loyal to the end. He had saved lives in battle, and now, finally, someone was willing to save his. Elias's sworn statement reached military officials at dawn. It was short, direct, and undeniable. Sombra saved our lives. Any accusation to the contrary is a lie. The public rallied once more. A congressman demanded an inquiry. The hashtags exploded again. Still, Dr. Clara heard nothing from the Ministry of Defense. Then, a simple message arrived. Review complete. Euthanasia order permanently revoked. Sombra is cleared for release. Dr. Clara broke down, sobbing as she read the words. Raphael wrapped his arms around her. Sombra let out a soft bark, as if he knew that after all the battles he had fought, he had finally won the last one. 6 months later, Sombra walked proudly through a veterans' rehabilitation center, wearing a blue service vest and moving with a quiet grace. He stopped beside a young soldier in a wheelchair, rested his head on the man's knee, and waited. The soldier smiled through tears. He came right to me, he whispered. Dr. Clara watched from a distance, her heart full. Raphael stood beside her. You gave him back his purpose. No, she replied softly. He gave us ours back. Sombra had been discarded and broken, but love and loyalty had brought him home.